Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talk About Your Community. I'm your host, Todd Nielsen with Clocktower Advisors, the sponsors of the show. And this is a LinkedIn Live 3-day-a-week video stream about community building, digital strategy, entrepreneurship. I think we're going to check all of those boxes today with my guest. But before we get into that, if you are not already familiar with what this show is about, we like to have on a variety of guests who talk about their various community efforts, most often with the element of technology as a mediating influence. So it's a discussion forum, a Facebook group, an application or tool, something that builds connection between people. And then there's often, if not always, an in-person or face-to-face kind of element to it, whether it's an annual conference, a group that meets together in person regularly, a group of employees working for an organization, or some kind of service organization or not-for-profit. So we do cover a lot of bases with that, but the idea is we're interested in sort of what's underlying the things that draw us together and the ways that technology makes that easier every day. So I've been a little light on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule the last week or so. It's going to probably continue for a little bit because there's a lot happening in the consulting space for me right now, as well as a lot of community events that are going on. In fact, going on right now is the CMX event, which is the big annual online community professionals event. And I've already seen some great presentations yesterday, including from my colleague and friend, Sarah Hawk, with the Discourse online community platform. She's amazing. If you haven't seen her before, just incredible insights, comes from a user experience background. And of course, Discourse is an amazing discussion forum platform. So that said, next week, I am not going to be broadcasting on Labor Day, but I do have sessions scheduled for the 8th and the 10th for Talk About Your Community. And I will be putting up some notifications about those as soon as I have those scheduled via StreamYard. That said, let's go ahead and jump into my guest for today. I've got here with me in the stream Andrew Schmitz, who is one of the co-founders for a new business called Micronet, which, as I understand it, is AI-powered emails that are used to connect people within an organization. Maybe it's employees in an organization. Maybe it's a social group. It probably has some pretty broad use cases. But Andrew, you're a bit of a serial entrepreneur, I guess. Is that a fair characterization of you?
Yeah, you could say that. I've started a few companies, but yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me today, Todd, to talk about Micronet.
Yeah, no, I'm incredibly excited to have you on. I'm always interested in people that are innovating in the technology space with new ways to bring people together. And I think when you and I connected, it was because we really sort of live in the same region. You're in Appleton, and I'm over here in Two Rivers in the Wisconsin market. But the application you're building is really applicable, to any organization globally. Do you want to tell folks a little bit about what Micronet does in your own words?
Yeah, absolutely. So Micronet is an online tool. It's used for building community and increasing a sense of belonging for any membership organization. The typical membership organization that we target are companies or larger companies, and they use this for employee engagement. So getting their employees to talk to each other, and connect. Sometimes it's used for breaking down departmental silos that might exist within a company. But the overarching goal, if a company or organization is to use Micronet, it's to increase the sense of belonging for their members within the organization.
And that's done through I guess an algorithm or AI approach. Can you maybe talk about that? How that?
Yeah, the technical details. Yeah. So the best thing about Micronet as an employee engagement tool, or just as a member engagement tool, is that it's entirely email based. So basically, what our system does is you enroll your members, or they sign up for this. service. And then based on some preferences that they choose while enrolling their account, our algorithm uses AI to match people and then send them email introductions. And it's all personalized email introductions. It looks like it's coming from your community. You can customize the content within the email, put in member information. But basically, a common one would be like, hey, Todd, meet Andrew. You're both part of community name, and it's your time to connect. And then they can email back and forth directly through that email thread that was started. And so Micronet manages all the connections to make sure that we don't send duplicates, or you can send duplicates if you'd like after a certain amount of time has passed. But it basically manages all this and makes employee engagement super easy by meeting employees or community members in their inbox.
It sort of reminds me a little bit of some more. I think there's a commercially available platform called Lunch Club that connects people out there. But except this is more specific to an organization. Is that maybe?
Yeah, it works very similarly to Lunch Club. The thing that we don't do that Lunch Club does is Lunch Club, builds a meeting room for people. We don't do any of the meeting room. Most of the time when people are connected, say in a company, how they connect is totally up to them, right? So they can set up a Zoom call. If they work on the same campus, they can, schedule an actual in-person meeting, as weird as that might sound these days. But how they connect is totally up to them. And what this allows us to do is integrate really well into technologies that companies might already be using. So if you already pay for Teams, you already pay for Zoom, you still are using those. We're just the thing that connects them. But you can think of us very similar to how Lunch Club works, except we're for private organizations. So organizations that don't necessarily want their employees connecting with other random people out in the internet, but want to build up the sense of community within the enterprise.
So it's a more focused use case. Could a company use it for maybe, say, a private online community, like of customers or other kinds of stakeholders, just to kind of mix them up and make sure that they meet each other?
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually forgot if we mentioned this earlier, but we're a startup, so we are really excited about learning about more opportunities on using Micronet in terms of engaging your customers or other important circles of influence. But we actually do have a company lining up to do exactly that. So using it as a way of connecting the people that they care about, the customers that they take care of, and giving their customers unique opportunities to meet people like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could think of all kinds of interesting applications for this based on some organizations that I'm doing some work with. For example, an online community that is dedicated to helping people advance professionally, organizations that are maybe sponsoring that community or putting money up for that, to be able to set up a list of recruiters or hiring professionals on one side, and then a list of people that are in that community on the other side, to give them networking opportunities, to kind of put them in contact with each other. But then also, I guess you could set up like some lists, like I want people from list A to meet list B, right? And then, there's maybe some other, like I could have a third list if I just wanted like members of the community to meet other members of the community. Is there some flexibility that's built into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So how you set up your communities, there's lots of flexibility or options. You can do match groups, like you said. I want group A to meet group B, whatever they are. You can also set up multiple communities within an organization. Like for example, we're talking to a large worldwide company. They have folks in India, folks in the United States. As cool as it would be if they were to connect, they are 13 and a half hours apart. So they're setting up different subsets of their organization inside of Micronet. But then even further down, you can start to get picky about, I want these folks to interact with these folks, and that's really how you can start to break down those departmental silos. But then you can also do really cool things, like we're finding out someone recently told me, hey, would this be a good use case for Micronet? It's they have an internship program, right? And they want their interns to connect with professionals within the enterprise. And so they have a list of professionals that have agreed to meet with interns. They have their list of interns, and Micronet automatically sends these engagements and sets them up for interns to meet with folks across the company in different departments and learn about the enterprise. So lots of different applications. There's customization that you can do inside of Micronet as well, and make it super, super easy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then I would assume you can set things like the frequency with which you're setting up those introductions, and I could probably customize all my follow-up messages and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, so we have as a startup, right? Our want list is longer than our feature list right now, but yeah, definitely. And there's loads of things that we're considering as well to help make connection just easier. And like I said, the end goal here is, I think when folks are connected in these micro connections, then you have this opportunity to like sit down and meet with someone and really get to understand them and get to know them deeper, right? One of the things that I've found about being a part of community organizations or community networking per se is, sometimes like if you're in a Slack channel, for instance, and there's maybe 40 or 50 people inside of this Slack channel, I don't really know who's all there, right? Like if I'm new to the community, I'm not entirely sure, what are people's stances on things, or like who's got my back if I post something, like who's out there, right? And so part of what I think what's really cool about micro networking just generally is when you build these genuine connections with people, you feel part of the gang, right? And I think you're more likely than to engage in large group conversations after you've, set up your buddies, or have gotten to know just more members on that micro level, which is really, to be honest, how Micronet started was, I can get into that if you want, but it was basically, I was new to the entrepreneurial scene, right? I quit my full-time job, and I quickly realized that my network wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. I was really well networked with special education directors in the southern states, but that meant nothing to me now in my new venture, and I hardly knew anyone locally here. So I started going to networking events, and I'd go pick out these business cards from people, and then I'd try to sit down for coffee with some of them. So I'd maybe get 20 business cards and call 5 of them, and some of them, or call all of them, and then maybe 5 of them would be like, yeah, I'll get coffee with you, right? Mm-hmm. It was those coffee meetings that really, moved my business forward and moved me forward as an individual as well. And so as a tech entrepreneur, I thought to myself, I'm spending a lot of time doing all this manual work, following up with people. There's got to be a handful of people out there that just want to get coffee meetings with other professionals. And so I was like, how can we skip right to coffee meeting? And so that's really where Micronet was born. We created Micronet. It was a Google Sheet with an algorithm attached or macro attached to it. And that was the initial version of Micronet about 2 years ago. And then that rapidly grew. It was just organic growth for the community that we started locally. And then we started duplicating it in other communities. And then eventually a corporation caught on, and we were able to roll out an internal Micronet group to a local company.
Yeah, I mean that ability of Micronet to connect people is so incredibly important. I think a lot of the early community building effort, when somebody's starting a new online community, or they're trying to get people connected in an online community, it is about forging those one-on-one interactions with people, and that is hard work. It's often the rote work of a community manager to try to broker some of those introductions and get people to know each other a little bit, to set up some of those mixers. And the fact that this technology that you've built could be applied to some of those platforms and situations is on one hand a labor and sanity saver for a community manager to think about, or internally within an organization for a chief people officer to think about how do we break down the silos, how do we get our people to know each other, but it's also tremendously valuable when you think about. I was watching a presentation from Carrie Melissa Jones. I think she was on Disciple Media doing a stream a couple of weeks ago. And she was showing a graphic, or maybe it may not have been her, it may have been somebody else that I was watching. I've seen so many community presentations over the last.
They run together, don't they?
But the presenter was showing a graphic about economic development in a region, and the degree to which people are interconnected with each other, their degree of communication with each other, actually improve the economic viability of those regions where you are. And I think that is the correlative, the correlation between what you're doing with that application and the good that can result from that. What it may not be economic viability, it may be new product ideas, or it might be a higher sense of belonging in a community. It might be people's overall morale for working for an organization, or that feeling of knowing somebody. When thinking back to my recruiter days, I think some of the wisdom there was. And I think it was from Gallup, saying that if people felt like they had a friend in the workplace, they were much less likely to leave that job.
So a sense of belonging, is really what it is. I was talking to a culture leader yesterday, actually, who told me the word, or like introduced me to the word belonging when thinking about Micronet, and I thought that just really landed well. But yeah, you're right. When you create a sense of belonging, if you have a friend at work, it's those non-tangibles that really weigh heavily on the mind when you're thinking about making a change.
And this is so I think it's tempting for a lot of leaders to think about, well, this is squishy stuff, right? But it's not. It's measurable. It's measurable in terms of outcomes, in terms of retention, in terms of morale for organizations, and then those impact things like productivity and bottom line of an organization. And the more that executive leaders wake up to that idea and understand and are truly digging it, to put it that way, because I think a lot of them say yeah, I get it, but I don't think they really have wrapped their arms around it and embraced it, as a concept. This is really critically important, especially now in the COVID times, in which we live, where so many of us are working remotely, and Zooms or video meetings like this are our lifeline and connection, and our by and large a social life, to other people out there.
So true. Yeah, the water cooler conversations, as they say, don't exist anymore. When you take this kind of virtual approach to business, and I think that's part of the reason why increased recently of interest with companies is because of the challenges that exist with remote work.
Yeah, I see it as part of the trend of some of the technology development. Some of the people that I've had on this stream in the past, like Rocco Haro, who's doing Kickback, which is kind of a 3D virtualized environment where you can basically treat it like you're in a networking situation in a bar. You can walk up to people, you can have sort of the face-to-face. It connects you it does some like that. That one is actually set up, and it's a different kind of application than what Micronet is. It's actually set to track where your eye movements are with a webcam, and to readjust you so that it actually looks like you're looking face to face, with that person. So it's like these technologies, they're almost like social lubricants, right? That they're things that they're trying to take the bumps and bruises that you get from using technology as a mediator, out of the picture and make it so much easier. And like on your Micronet on your side is trying to remove the pain of like, how do I meet somebody new in an organization? Rocco's application is like, how do I make sure that that I'm in an environment, where that feels like a natural networking kind of situation. Same thing with applications I'm seeing, I had a really interesting meeting with folks from a company called GamerJibe earlier this week. Same kind of thing, like virtualized conference environments. Unreal Networks is the same thing. Roomkey is a similar kind of idea. All of you guys are chipping away at this idea of like, how do we make it easier for people to make those connections online and for it to feel like a more natural kind of thing? Because I don't know about you, but like, and you're in Appleton, which is a smaller market as well. Where I live here in Manitowoc County, I'm hearing from people like, I'm so over Zoom. I can't meet people anymore. I've reached my saturation point. Part of me is like, boo-hoo, this is life now.
Yeah.
Suck it up. But I'm also sympathetic about it because I get it. There's friction to the technology. Excuse me. And I think what we're hearing is that people are frustrated with that user experience. It's not doing all the things that it could be doing to make it feel like a more joyous, immersive kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Humans don't like change either. So there's part of that, but we'll get through the change part.
Yeah, I wish I had that little clip from Wayne's World, and they say, we fear change. I think it's like human nature. So, So anyways, I know you're involved with some other kinds of entrepreneurial efforts, like Proceed App is something else you're working on. And you stepped away from your day job. I think that's amazingly gutsy to do, to like go it on your own and build something from scratch. Where are you at? As much as you can share with Micronet along its development path. Are you guys funded, or is it are you looking for investors? Like I'd love to get the word out for you if you are.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So currently we, as I mentioned, Micronet when it started was a Google Sheet. So most recently, after some IT departments started poking their fingers at us and found out we were a Google Sheet, it basically forced us to rebuild the platform. So now we're a full AWS hosted web app. We're meet standard IT security and data privacy procedures and policies. So we are basically have built version 2.0 of Micronet. As we sit today, we are revenue generating. We've had customers even before we turned it into a real web app. But where we're at right now is just trying to learn more about, what customers should we be going after as a startup. You have to niche down to find the person that you can easily talk to, know the pains that they're going through, and be able to serve those pains, and then copy paste, and repeat, right? And so we're in the process of learning who is that customer going to be for us. And then, in terms of funding, we're bootstrapped right now, but we're a really lean business. We hardly have, we don't have many expenses. We don't spend money on marketing right now. So we potentially could go down the funding path, but too early to call. We're really just trying to connect with potential companies looking that have this problem. Maybe their problem is employee retention, or cultural indicators that say that employees don't feel like they belong, or employees aren't connecting enough with colleagues. Those kind of companies that might be interested in trying something new with employee engagement, and willing to do a pilot or something with Micronet. So that's where we are. We're basically looking for companies to learn from, is essentially the case.
And forgive me for looking away for a second, because I was looking up. You made me think of this. Have you had any interactions with Stephen Utek from Illumix?
Yeah, actually, yeah, Steve and I, he's been a great partner even on the Proceed app side. And so we've had several conversations about Micronet and have another one scheduled next week. So yeah, he's awesome and highly recommend to anyone. Lumix does great work. I've seen it change organizations and really, really benefit companies.
It's kind of an incredible app that he's built for those who are our viewers that aren't familiar with it, and I don't have an expectation you would necessarily. It's really it does cultural analytics within an organization, and so it can look at like geographical area, it can look at departments, and it can kind of really pull out like cultural assumptions and things that are working and things that aren't, in organizations, like what managers are perceiving versus what employees are perceiving. I mean, it's incredibly powerful, and I can see Micronet being applied as a platform that would be, supplementary or as a corrective action to bad assumptions or silos within organizations. So
absolutely, and yeah, highly recommend Illumix as well. I mean, just amazing. Really, what they do is illuminate the culture within businesses, and sometimes that can be really hard, but they make it really, really like they're good at easing into it with leaders, and it's not a blame game. It's let's figure this out.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, I think we're kind of winding down here at the end of the half an hour. I haven't seen any comments. This is the first day I haven't had anybody jump in. Maybe it was an odd day for folks, but my hope is that if there are some folks out there that have some questions, please drop them in the comments, either now or in the replay. I do read all the comments. I try to respond to everybody. If there's something for Andrew, I'll be sure to tag him in so that he sees it as well. But again, I really appreciate you coming onto the show and sharing what you're doing as an entrepreneur and what you're doing to build communities and organizations. I think this is really important and powerful work, and I wanted to be sure to shine a spotlight on it. We're not partners. I don't get any remuneration for this. This is just, I think it's a cool thing, that you're doing and that you're working on. Andrew, any kind of parting thoughts, anything else that we didn't get to talk about with regards to the application, or anything you want to plug that's coming up that you're working on?
No, I think we've basically covered all bases here, but thanks, Todd, for the opportunity. If anyone's interested in learning more about Micronet or have any ideas that maybe they're afraid to put into a comment, I'd love to hear really from anyone. We're in this feedback mode right now, so no comment is I want to hear it all. So yeah, no, don't be shy. And to reach us, our website is super easy. It's just micronet.social. So not .com, but .social. And my email, you can reach us at contact@micronet.social.
That's perfect, Andrew. And I see a quick shout out from Eric Johnson from Aurora WDC. Hey, Eric, thanks for chiming in. This has been super interesting. As the app develops, as you do more, I hope you come back on the show at some point and tell us a little bit more about how it's going. Would really love that. And as well as any other entrepreneurial efforts that you're involved with. I know that you're committed to that life now, and I think it's amazing that you're doing it.
Yeah, this is going to be it for a while, I think, Todd. But
awesome.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for joining us on Talk About Your Community. If you are looking for help with your own community strategy, a digital strategy for social outreach, if you're trying to engage with a group of people to help them solve a problem or to get them more connected with each other, please consider reaching out to Clocktower Advisors, clocktoweradvisors.com. In the meantime, I look forward to seeing you next week. I plan to have a show on Wednesday. Is that the 7th or the 8th? Next Wednesday, the 8th, at 11 a.m. Central Time. In the meantime, please be good to yourselves. Take care. There will be no show on Friday. So again, I'll see you next Wednesday. I guess that's it. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, Andrew.